Welcome everyone, this is Evelyn and I have two messages of the day for you. Pretty detailed, a lot of information came up this weekend. It was pre-Super Bowl, there's a lot of energy in the air, and I have my abbreviated 7-deck read here, so it's only 3 decks today. But definitely some important information was coming up, so I want to get right into it. Let's go ahead and take a few deep breaths first. If you'd like to, take a deep breath. Take another deep breath. If you'd like to, you can send love over to Turkey and Syria. One more deep breath. Sending lots of love and blessings out to everybody. I hope you had a beautiful weekend. It was a beautiful day today. The sun was out. It's dark now, but it was a very beautiful day. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I'm going to get right into this. Let's go ahead and roll the die first. For the twin flames, what's going on today? Today is the 13th of February, so tomorrow's Valentine's Day. And we just had the Super Bowl. There was a lot of, remember when the Super Bowl is coming up, there's all this collective energy of gambling, you know, worried about losing money. All this kind of stuff could come up, not to mention all of the seeding energy that's been coming up for me this week regarding going back to the Neanderthal man. And literally every night I've been doing some deep work on going back to what's bothering me most. And it keeps coming up, the seeding of the Neanderthal. So it's very significant. Let's see what the die have to say for you guys today. It was 608 when we started, which is the Lovers, and then the 8, which is the Strength card, but also the Infinity. We have Virgo energy here, which is also, the 9th month. It's all about purification. The 9 is the 1 and the all as well. And here we have the South Node, which is still in Scorpio, letting go of those deep transformational Scorpio tendencies that aren't serving us anymore. So what is it for you? And it relates to everybody differently. And then we have the 11, which is Justice and Libra, the alignment of the two ones, the two leaps back and forth, which comes up in the read again today. So we have Virgo, Libra, and Scorpio, which all come up right in a row. So we have the Virgo mutable, and then Libra, which is cardinal, and then Scorpio, which is a fixed sign. So that's very well balanced. Okay, so this first read, and we'll get started in just a minute. So this is the first read, and it's 4 decks. And this is all from the weekend. So this is from Saturday, and I have one from yesterday, today, and then today I didn't even need to pull cards because so much information came up this morning. So this is the Journey of Love, and then my Wild Unknown Animal Guidebook deck, and then my mixed deck of Lenormand, and then the Kipper deck. So Lenormand, Reverie, and the Kipper deck together. And then the last one is my half deck of Rider-Waite, so it just has the characters or people in it, the court cards. Okay. So before that, we're starting here on the 11th. And I went out to do my stretches that morning with Teddy. And right as I was doing like heaven and earth stretches, it was so quiet and beautiful out. And then all of a sudden this hawk, or I swear it was an eagle, but it could be a hawk. I was looking up to see if I could identify it, and the coloring looks more like an eagle. But you don't often see eagles, near the city. So it could have been a hawk, but it just, nothing else was around. There were no other birds around, nothing. It was very quiet. And right as I'm in that position of heaven and earth, it comes flying in on the same angle as me as it flew over my house. And we communicated together as we flew together over the house. And it was just such a beautiful message that morning. And literally 3 minutes later, the bird came back and did the same exact thing with me as I was tapping my crown. It was amazing. I can't explain to you the feeling. It was so beautiful. And so I was looking up the eagles and the hawks to see if I could identify which bird it was. And they just came up in general as, you know, the eagle and the hawk, because the hawk's a lot smaller than an eagle. I was getting the messages from I was writing down the words with my wrong hand, you know, to see what kind of messages would come out of it. And it was coming up as source is the eagle, and then we are the hawks. And again, I was getting a lot of shapes of the birds, like the Rolling Stone letters, like E, M, W, and 3 are all the shape of the bird with their wings down. And then the V, as in, I'm thinking of this because of my name, is EV, and then V is the bird with the wings up in flight. So that symbolism was coming up as well. Yeah, and so, and again, the red-tailed, that's funny, the red-tailed hawk versus the golden eagle is what I wrote that morning, and the Super Bowl hadn't happened yet. And as I wrote the eagle down, it literally came out like the eagle with balls of iron. And the hawk was coming out more as the daughter energy and the work week. And that came up last week around the day Monday, right? Because it's the beginning of the work week. And it also comes up as the ox, right? The workhorse type of energy. The spark, but again, the Anu and the human were coming up, which again is the seeders, right? When the humans were seeded, or that was the Neanderthal man being seeded by the Anunnaki. So this day on the 11th was the 11 of justice, and the day added up to 20, which is judgment. So a lot about the legal system there on Saturday. So that was justice and judgment, right? You can't get more judgmental or legal than those two cards together. And then the 11 of alignment. And they're both J words too. The J came up today as well. So, and I ended up going back into Elena Danan's book too regarding some of the words from Pleiadian and Mana and the perfected man, and just some other stuff that I don't need to get into too much. Something else that came up was really funny was Teddy has this little fox toy, and Jen and I are always talking about it because no matter where you throw the fox, he always lands on his feet. And the other day when I was home alone, I went to the bathroom and the fox was right next to the bathroom door, like with I have a carpet at the front door, and he's been ripping all the fringe off of it, not the fringe but the ruffles. And he already did that to another carpet, so this is number 2 carpet he's doing it to. And so I'd cut the pieces off that he had pulled off the carpet, and so he plays with them. And he had wrapped the fox in this white fringe or ruffles, like the fox was taking a nap by the bathroom. And it was so cute, and I didn't think much of it. And then the next day, my daughter called me over. She said, "Mom, you have to see this." And I go over to the exact same place where the fox was the day before. Now the fox was doing a handstand against the wall, and the ruffles were like a trail, like the gymnasts who use the flags and stuff. I can't think of what they're called right now, but it was just like that. I just can't explain to you. It was such a cool thing to see these two images because they were just such perfect little images to see. but there may be energy, and again, the Super Bowl was on Fox Network, so that was coming up regarding the fox. There's a lot about the fox coming up here too. So doing a handstand and then cuddling in their blanket, so to speak. So this first read was with the Journey of Love, the Wild Unknown Animal Tarot, the Lenormand, Reverie, and Kipper deck, like I said, and then the half deck. And I pulled these on the 11th between 11:38 and 11:43. And 38, 39 are the King and Queen of Cups, and then 41 and 42 are the Ace of Cups and the Two of Cups. So a lot of emotional, loving energies were coming up there with the time. And the cards at the piles at the end that I always count, for those of you who don't normally watch, on the left are all the underlying energies, and on the right are piles of cards I'm supposed to count. And sometimes they can come up with like half a deck, but it hasn't been doing that anymore. I've been getting very low numbers, and this week the cards were 1, 2, 2, and 1, so 1221 was coming up very significant. So of course I looked it up in Gematria because it's 1221, and I listed a whole bunch of entries from Gematria. So here goes. Number 1 for 1221, and you can look this stuff up yourself if you want, was white hats. Number 2 was I show speed. Number 3 was Christ Rapture Day. 4 was the 11th hour, and 11 comes up a lot here too. Tower of Babel, and then Festival of Lights. Ivana Trump. Then number 8 was Faithful and Loving. 9 was Bye Bye Bye, as in BYE, 3 times. 10 was Followers. 11 was See You at the Gateway. 12 was Tangila, Joetta, Collier, which I don't know who that is, or if it is a person, but that's what came up. And then James Tobias Lomas, Inc. came up. 14 was White Hats again. 15 was 4 Quantum Dots. That was 15, rather. 16 is God Bless Our True Heroes. 17 was Gematrix of the Matrix. 18, Son of Jesus. 19 was Gerudo to Rice. And 20 was Prophecy Today. 21 was Clock Tower. 22 was Artwork. 23 was The Dimension of Love. 24 was 215, which is my area code for Philadelphia. 25 was Baal Worship. 26 was Let's Plan Our Next Date. 27 was I can't read my writing. I think it says hourless, but it may not be right. 28 was It Did As It Pleased and Exalted itself. 29 was Back to the Land of Our Mother, and Sophia came up there. And 30 was Of the Voice of Life and Light. 31 was Perfect Love Song. 32 was Corkscrew. 33 was Artwork. 34 was Be in the Female Jesus. 35 was Clovis Points? I don't think it's Clovis. I'm not sure, but again, you can look this up for yourself if you'd like to. 36 was End of World Code. 37 is What a Stiff. 38 is Dr. Jekyll and Me Hyde. And the number next to 1221 was 144 on number 38 there, and 30, which is the 4 Wands of Union. I looked up 215 as well, since it was my area code. And Lord God came up with Romeo, Coingate, Andromeda, and Buck, which was number 8, actually. Andromeda was 7, 6 was Coingate, Romeo was 5, and 8 was Buck. And I was getting with Romeo 66, and I was getting Elton and Sir Elton. And then with Coingate, I was getting Kohangate, because coin is another way of writing Kohan. So getting into this message at 11:59, which is the minute before noon, right? Talk about the 11th hour. The underlying energy was the 56 of the Dance of the Planets, and the Unicorn, the 33 of Concern, and the Chariot. The Two of Swords of Knowing, hand in hand in the Dance of the Planets, which is play nets like the grids. And Dance was coming up with Dance backward, which is ECNAD. So the closest thing that ECNAD that came up was ECNES. So I just looked up the ECN, and then if there's extra letters, usually I'll take them off in the meaning. So ECNES means eternity without the ES or S after death, which is that reference to the Sophia after death, which is that energy of the darkness as opposed to the light. And then ECDNA came up, and the Unicorn with the third eye, the 33 of the Christ vibration, and the concern of martyrdom in a bold move as the charioteer, or ascending fast. The 33 was coming up as that energy of 2/3 or 8/12, like the, remember when I did the read of 120 over 80, at the end of the read, which 120 over 80 is 12 over 8 if you take the zeros away, and I ended the read on 80 over 12 for a totally different reason. And here that 8 over 12 is coming up again regarding the 33, because it comes up as the 33 being 8/12 of the 8/8, that 4/12 are missing, which is 1/3. So two birds on sides, on their sides, like vertical gliding, which then was reflecting the bird that I'd seen, who was dancing with me that morning, turning over to dive in formation, with two 5D gate holders concerned about taking the show on the road. And then at 12:11, which is the Hanging Man and Justice, the underlying energy of the 10 card of 3 to 1, and the 1 card of the Heart Fire, and the leap from the vortex to the rose heart, the 48 of Man of Earth and Woman of the Sky, and the Earth was coming up as the ear to the nth degree, and then the sky was coming up as Sophia KY, which is the energy of 0 point field. Going within to the 12 of the Hanging Man, and self-initiation of 1 and 2, the masculine and feminine, laying down their hair to get all wrapped up in it again, in both vortex and the wall of spin, which was taking me back to the Philadelphia experiment where the humans got caught in the walls after the boat disappeared and came back again. So again, this energy of laying down your hair after clearing yourself just to get all wrapped back up in your hair again, like that quantum entanglement in your solar plexus. The 23 of the King of Wands to settle in from red to green, and there's that Christmas energy with gold, across the waters, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. As the Christed golden white light burst through the rose heart, was all calm in the vortex, but now red and exalted and excited, when they need to be calm. To be wise with the King of Wands, laying down the hair to transform red to green, where red is that root energy of ego and war, and then coming back up to the heart in green with the 7 of the Chariot and shifting universes to the middle stream of gold, green, and blue, which is the solar plexus, the heart, and the throat, being in the center. At 12:21, by the way, is this next 3 lines. And the place of power here in the heart, no matter where or what the gears are doing, how they are shifting, destined to leap within to wisdom. The King of Wands and the Chariot going home to the 30 of the home or union, and towering magnificence of knowing the dance of the planets or plan of the ETs, keeping your energy clear. At 12:24, which is the Hanging Man and the Queen of Wands, which 24 is also the Pleiades number as the planetary system, which is also 24 is also Omega, considered the crowning moment at the top of your head. And so the 69 comes up here with contemplation and the Ace of Pentacles and a new life, with the 46 of the 6 of Cups, just for a moment joy with the child with their arms up over their head, like I was doing with the bird that morning, and the 45 of the hidden beauty within, in simplicity of keeping it real and balanced. So don't feel so down after a high experience. So again, not letting yourself get too excited because then you'll feel the fall afterward. With one card at the end here, number 5, the communal dance of change, freedom, and expansion, and commitment, tradition, and guidance, to joining with others around the collective egg. So at 12:30, the Hanging Man and the Four of Wands is the underlying energy of the swans, the frog, and the unicorn. In the rain and the dark, where the frog is clearing, feeling the dark rain falling from the third eye unicorn, the 5D gate holder falling upon them, because like the frog is in the white, they're in the clear, there's no dark energy around them, but the rain is coming down as dark energy, clearing the collective that the unicorn's doing, but the frog is feeling the repercussions of this clearing because some of the dark is coming down on them. Standing strong in the dark, unseen, which also comes up as un, and then capital C apostrophe N, unseen, or as in the sea of the whispering bench and the Christ consciousness, and to see with your heart and your eyes, as the frog is feeling unworthy of their beauty, even though they are a swan too. At 12:33, which is literally Jesus on the cross, the Hanging Man and the Christ consciousness, and the one of the hyena, both half and half, slithering away, feeling unworthy of a new life. As the dragon solar plexus keeps an eye on the joy of the children, the hyena and the shark are feeling moody and aggressive amidst the dragon's childlike energy. The frog feeling powerful when they're with their children, but perhaps when the children aren't around, feeling pulled down again. So we have 2 cards here of the tarantula and the horse at a crossroads, perhaps to mission. And this card, when they hesitate or over intellectualize, that's when they go into their negative side, and it's called daily journaling is called in that case for the tarantula. And then the throne comes up here, as in the tar from tarantula means throne in Pleiadian, according to Elena Danon's book. And then the horse, and the horse also comes up as Mary Magdalene, as the whore that sees. And so the tarantula is coming up as the tar of the throne, the ant, and then the eula, which is the spring, or excuse me, the spiny lobster, the tomb, the vault, the object of ridicule, FM radio, to howl, to spill any liquid, including blood. The owl, the lobster, the crayfish, the fish, to pulverize a plant or a planting, a stick, and a dog. The thrown ant howls, and the horse sees. Or this could be a sudden event, and Mr. Ed at the intersection of the high road of one. The Tula also here is the eel, the bum, the idler, the penis, and the poem, where the one of energetic exchange and the one of the leap, or the bum's idler poem, where the whore sees, or the hoe is the arse, with the elk, the butterfly, and the sea serpent here, hot under the collar in transformation, the hot sun, or hungry for light, transforming to seal the deal and take flight, or daughter going to work, with sacral work and clearing the air, and the wingspan coming up here, again as the bird that I'd seen that morning. At 12:57, you got mail, I was just getting now. The mailman delivered. 12 is the Hanging Man and 57 is the Three of Swords. And by the way, it was Super Bowl 57, which is the Three of Swords of heartbreak. And Sophia with 2 V's, a fun IC, which is inner child, the human RN of NYE without Dr. Ago Shark, you are Gosh Ark, the throne of the horse. So Sophia co-creating a fun inner child, human RN, which is someone, right, who nurses others, in the New York energy of one, equal and congruent to, but without Dr. Ago or Shark. But again, the throne of the horse coming up, which the horse is coming up, though, it's Mr. Ed, but also Sophia as Mary Magdalene in the whore who sees. The octopus, starfish, lion, and eagle come up here. And it was funny, too, because the Super Bowl was coming up, so here's the eagles, and I'm like, well, why is the lion with the eagles? And it was funny because my daughter went out last night to a place called Roar. So solar plexus with the active brain here, with 8 departments of more superficial energies, but act independently, causing activation in the solar plexus, especially when the sacral is vulnerable. The solar may act up. For hawk to clear energies, the octopus requires boundaries around the starfish, who sways with outward appearance. I'm sorry if you're hearing the noise with Teddy. He's playing with his bone, and he's doing it on purpose. Like he ripped up my rug at the front door when I wasn't paying attention to him. So just so you're aware, I don't think you can hear it too loud because my microphone, but. So what dreams have been put aside to please others, and who actually here needs the boundaries? With lion present and eagle diving right in, the bee hovering at the nest and the nightingale calling, sweet baby's breath, calling in the support team, the cavalry, or it's just time. The egg is about to hatch. Spring is about to begin. Prepare the troops. Lion idler watching the birds and bees ready their nests for their first breath. And again, that lion right now is coming up as Teddy. He's a Cancer, but he's definitely got lion kind of energy in him. And he's more saggy, really, than Leo. But he comes off as that lion with those two energies together. And he's got a mane like a lion. So the bees are readying their nests for their first breath. The heart chakra. And I was getting the chakra order of the sixth chakra, or the third eye, going to the third, which is the solar plexus, to the sacral, and then back to the fourth, which is back up to the heart. 6, 3, 2, 4. Knowing and causing a solar feeling that then activates the sacral to connect to the heart. So again, the knowing of the third eye, which then causes a solar plexus feeling, which then activates the sacral to connect to the heart. The heart's longing to mate, to share home with at 111, which is the leap to the 11 of alignment. So at 112, which is the leap to the hanging man, or the 1-2 of the masculine and the feminine, the 5 of the tree and the 7 of cups, the 25 of the high honors, the 32 of despair, 29 of the ace of swords, 39 of the knight of cups, and 33 of concern, of synchronicities and options for clearing the trunk, heart of the tree, and honoring in the freedom of spring, to light a fire under the journey of despair, or that's the pair, to get them going again, or what gift to bring on the Knight of Wands' journey to loving woman of truth with one last rose in her hand, present at the moment with the Knight of Cups taking a chance, with concern of Christ-like martyrdom, or the Knight of Wands and the Knight of Cups free, perhaps father with concerns of their kids' newly found freedom, knowing what it takes to achieve real freedom within. And then the first card here is the 4 of the home, the King of Cups home, the 19 of the 6 of Swords tower, and this energy of surveillance over the countryside, the border control, bureaucracy, college, government, house and garden, and hermitage, on watch within and without. The 20 of the park and a public organization here, where the King of Cups may be concerned his public life is affected by his children, or he's concerned about a risky offer of love and how it will affect his home, office, and social life, or his publicity, or considering working from home, but concerned about how the public may affect his private life and or his kids, with the King of Cups finding peace in the public eye, release as opposed to imprisonment. In the home of the King of Cups, or love, which King of Cups can be unconditional love as well, and sunshine, the place of peace and worship, and nature of release from prison, or a public event at home, or is this the ambassador, or the ambassador with 3 homes, or branches of government, or having to choose just one, trying to figure out a good plan, perhaps for a wedding or celebration, whether to have it at home or not, or how much it costs, and tried in the public court, imprisoned by popular opinion, or politician who goes to jail, or adjudication of home, or jury duty here. At 1:35, the leap to the wounded warrior, where then I was getting the hawk fell down. Red hawk down. And there was this energy about a hawk that came up on line 2, about a tagged hawk and the cause of death of this tagged hawk. So red hawk down, and the world's first cell spar, a 560-foot deep hole with 7 giant cylinders in it. In 10 minutes, toppled out of sight. So this was about, a huge, it looked like an oil rig in the water. And I guess it was a test site. But within 10 minutes, it toppled right out of sight under the waves. And that was from the Gulf of Mexico. Black, of course, Red Hawk Down and Black Hawk Down are also a TV show and a movie. And Black Hawk Down was about 160 elite U.S. soldiers dropped into Mogadishu, 1093, to capture 2 top lieutenants of a renegade warlord, and ended up fighting large force of Somalis. So home or union court, or adjudication imprisoning, or a gift was imprisoning someone, right? Having to get a gift, or a gift they received may have imprisoned them. Maybe they didn't like it, or that could be your psychic gifts as well, feeling imprisoned by them. Or someone literally was released from prison here. With 28 and the 2 of Wands, the choice of path or the twin flames, with expectation or lady in wait, looking out the window or watching for sudden events, or perhaps watching southeast. The 6 of Cups, children or fox or Sagittarius, perhaps on the property to pee or escaping the hen house, or lady and fox watching outside together or shadowing each other, with Aries, Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio, and Saggy here, or octopus concern, where house is the star, and I was getting the energy of the casino always wins. Octopus with concerns, where the house is the star, the Leo or lion leaders, and eagles with public notoriety take flight. So getting the nest ready for the songbird. And there was that energy of halftime with Rihanna coming up to sing, and she was very pregnant. The 206 is the 2 of the divine feminine and higher self, and the 6 of the lovers. The Page of Wands inspired the King of Cups with the Knight of Wands as well, and this would be a father and their 2 children, the 6 of Cups, or kids getting the King of Cups father together with the Empress with a message from the Queen of Wands, distracted by the devil or temptation, or Capricorn, happy receiving the Knight of Swords, or that could be deliveries, or a response from the world, divine feminine, Pisces, or the neighborhood, or really fast delivery, or service by Pisces, or divine feminine high priestess, or naturally speaking Torah, as the King of Pentacles receives a choice or big delivery, like a car or a trip, or the King of Pentacles wants to go with the Mother in Capricorn, or Taurus in Cappy, Pisces or Virgo, and the King of Pentacles getting a flight or a car or inspiration from Cancer, or vehicle to alchemize the polarity here. And it was 215, so again that area code coming up, which is the Philadelphia area. 2 is the divine feminine or higher self, 15 is the devil, with the first card being the Hermit shedding light on the snowfall, or dark Knight of Cups and Queen of Cups magic, as the King of Wands watches them, who could be Big Brother or Leo, with an eye on Hermit and Chariot, or Cancer and Virgo, or military watching to see if Fox comes to town. Unable to sleep or stressed due to Saggy, Scorpio, Fox, or the King of Swords taking a walk when they can't sleep, or Virgo and Sag and or Leo watching cars go by, or Cancer, Leo spying, or that could be Saggy, Scorpio as well. Or Red Hawk literally flying over, like happened to me. With the King of Wands watching Hermit, watch the Ascension process or Christ consciousness, and the King of Swords Shark or Aquarius perhaps standing guard in public or borders up around the community or community watch. And the Pleiadians watching the Ascension process from outside our planet, tagging certain humans like we do the birds, with the Page of Cups, Emperor, Death, Queen of Swords, and the Fool, and a message of love to the Emperor, Dark Knight, or condolences here after a death. The Page of Cups, Emperor, Dark Knight, and Queen of Swords approach the Fool to set them free. The Emperor and water signs here as the Queen of Swords sets the King of Swords free. The Wounded Warrior or Saggy guarding the Page of Pentacles and Knight of Cups. Or Cancer, Saggy, Page of Cups, maybe the lookout for the Page of Pentacles and the Knight of Cups. Or Virgo, Page of Pentacles and the Emperor, and Scorpio, Knight of Cups. Or the Emperor or Aries is with their kids to offer love to the Queen of Pentacles to close the distance gap, or in-person invite with love to the Queen of Pentacles, as the Page of Pentacles with great love or affection for the Queen of Pentacles sees them as the Knight of Cups and the Queen of Cups, not that far apart emotionally, with the Nine of Pentacles sovereign or Queen of Cups independent catch, or asking mother for daughter's hand in marriage. And the Knight of Pentacles offering help, that can just be a mother asking mother for daughter's hand as well. That could be asking, to give her her hand so you can hold it if you're out walking or something like that. The Knight of Pentacles offers help to justice, for justice, or divorce, or payoff to manifest big, or is this a bribe to a judge or Libra by Gemini, or Virgo offer of love to Libra to manifest together, with Dark Knight and the Knight of Cups and King of Pentacles all offering perhaps and delivering invites together, with the Hermit illuminating the long way down for the Emperor or ski slope and unsure that it's safe, with Cancer, Virgo, Aries, Scorpio, Gemini, Libra all here. And 3 columns of fire signs here, Aries, Leo, and Sag, or Ram Gate, Lion's Gate, and Archer's Gate of home, of big business and sports, and the world of nature, or worldwide, or a wide world of sports, with Saggy Gate. Perhaps Saggy Gate was left open and Fox got out. Aquarius in a shark, or is a shark, and did Saggy or Scorpio go to jail? Or Leo with Eagle's leap right in, Fox or Saggy leaving or is about to, and turned around again, when Leo's or King of Wands' back was turned, or steals the ball and runs with it, as it did in the Super Bowl, which was funny because my son works in sports. So we were talking before the game. I'm saying, yep, I'm not getting a win today, because I got a win for the playoff for sure for the Eagles, but I wasn't getting anything about the Chiefs in the stuff that I was pulling. And I wasn't looking for answers, but I was just, if I did get any direct messages, I would have let him know. But I was getting lots of positive energy around the Eagles, but nothing about the Chiefs, because it's like they came out of nowhere, right? And the message I got was, it was close but no cigar. But I wasn't getting that regarding the game. Because I was just doing my regular read. But I did tell them there's definitely going to be a fumble. And they did. So, or the King of Wands was about to go public and turns around to see the Hermit with the light on, or sees them driving, or see them watching them. At home watching Dark Knight, or the Emperor, King of Cups, get the Queen of Swords to bail the King of Swords, or Fool out, or Aries out, and Lion is watching. Aries free, and Saggy on guard, where it looks like the gate may have been left open for a special proposal to the Queen of Pentacles, or the Queen of Swords getting Fool or Aries out of the way so that Saggy, Page of Pentacles, and Knight of Cups can't get in there to see the Queen of Pentacles softening to love, or the Knight of Cups asking the Queen of Pentacles to be their lover as the Queen of Cups, but financially independent, or a double proposal here to both mother and daughter at the same time. 3 knights proposing to transition, love and work together, and balance and magic, aligning with the I am presence. And it doesn't matter whether it's Judge or Jesus and Mother or Moses, and roses as boundaries or borders, with lilies infused or entangled. All about from the heart to the crown here at 2:59. So again, ending on that 11th hour number again, 59, with the 2 of the Divine Feminine or Higher Self. And then I was getting, right after that, at the end, I'm getting rain. So, and the rest of that day, I just was processing a lot of cloud pics because I was getting pictures like in every one of them. It was so much. And again, I've been doing that Bonnie clearing that I told you about from Spiritual Acceleration on her YouTube channel. She's a couple free clearings down, if you scroll down a bit. And this is the one, the worst wound. And again, it keeps taking me back to the seeding, but not down here on Earth, but up in space with spacesuits on. So this time, on the 11th, I was being in the spacesuit again right away. But this time I took off my gloves because I wanted to see what was underneath. Because the first time I was seeing an ape in a suit, but I didn't know what I was because I had a spacesuit on. So this time I took my hands off, and I had hairy hands. So this is when Neanderthal man was definitely coming up. And it's really funny too, because one of my past life regressions, I went into a pelican life, which was very sweet and peaceful. But one of the things I was describing in the past life regression was us watching a very hairy man who was partially clothed. He has nothing on the bottom because he was so hairy, and he had a shirt on though, or some kind of, probably a raw material over his top, which is very much like a Neanderthal man energy. And in my regression, the pelicans were just laughing because he was their buddy. Like, they would watch him and then they'd go off and swim and eat and do their normal thing. So after this, I looked up, I wrote down Neanderthal and then wrote it with my wrong hand to see what kind of messages were coming up. And as soon as I wrote it down, I was getting Rosenthal, which is a German name. And again, the Rosenthal effect, which is the phenomenon of the greater the expectation placed upon people is, the better they perform. And again, putting the pressure on. And the pygmy lion effort, which is a race of dwarfs or an insignificant person, is the pygmy. So the energy of a lion who is made insignificant was very interesting that energy came up. And then, of course, Hitler was a small guy, right? And then we have the Rosenthal with the rose to the nth degree and all. And then Thal came up, Thal, which is thalassemine, which is, or not thalassemine, but thalassemia, which is an inherited low hemoglobin. And the C also came up from that, as well as blood. So Neander from Neanderthal is also a German name. It comes from Tal, which also can be spelled Thal, Thal, was first found, the Neanderthal man was first found at Tal, 1856. Neanderthal, O-H-L-E, was the original name, but they changed it to Neanderthal. And also Neander Hollow is a hollow near the valley. The valley was renamed Neanderthal in 1850 in honor of Joachim Neander. I think that's his first name. And the valley before that was Gesteins, which is coming up as, and Stein is rock, like the mug, and then GE is energy, so the energy of the rocks. So as soon as that came up, then Hundsklipp came up, which means dog cliff, which is totally the Fool card, right? Where the Fool and the dog are running off the cliff. And Neander, his name, came originally from Numen, or the new man, old-fashioned, primitive, savage, or uncivilized person. So remember what I said about the rocks. That'll come up in the next message here. All right. So now we have, make sure I'm looking at the right one. Yep. All right. So this is the second message. And this starts out with Metatron deck, and then the Shaman Dreams deck, and then my mixed Lenormand Reverie and Kipper deck. The next one was Journey of Love, and then Wild Unknown Annual Guidebook, and then my half deck of Rider Waite at the bottom there. So I'm going to pull it in a little bit so you can see the cards a little better. Okay, again, to the left is the underlying energies, to the right is the cards I count. Sometimes I'm guided to put them in the pyramid form like that to read for you. Okay, so this one was done yesterday at 11:07 to 11:11 is when I put the cards out. And I was, yesterday was the 12th, and the day added up to 21, which is again that 12-21 energy, and I was getting today's the day. And the cards at the end of each deck were 2, 1, 4, 1, 1, 3, which I looked up, but I didn't expect to get anything because usually that big a number won't retrieve any results from gematria. But I looked up 2141 and then 214 because, of course, Valentine's Day is tomorrow. And 2141 was before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, which is interesting because I've seen all my children before they were born. The second entry was, I cringe when my husband is near me. 3 is, my name is not Tai, Thai, and then ANH. It is the Lord Yeshua. Number 4 is, I have the power, REE. There's 12 E's and then a Q. So R, 12 capital E's, and then Q, and they all had spaces between them. And for me, REE is a Native American tribe. And then the Q, of course, is Q, but it's also the energy of the quantum leap. The 5 is, promise me you. Give faith a fighting chance. And 6 was not New Year's Eve, but New Year Eve. Like it's a New Year Eve. And um, 214 I looked up. The first entry was simple. Second was April, ND. Not M, but N as in Nancy, D. Third was I am Batman. 4 is Moonchild. 5 was Captain. 6, Ma Holmes. And then 11 was Menorah. 7 was Audi. So the underlying energy here was 1127 of alignment and justice, of truth and balance. And it sounded outside like a crow was calling, but it didn't sound like a crow. It didn't sound big enough to be a crow. So I don't know what kind of bird it was, but it kind of had that sound at 1127. And 27 is the Ace of Wands, so that new passion to align perhaps. The underlying energy of the 19 and fire. And then the 45. 45 of repairing the veil. And the 17 of the Queen of Cups. The 53 of legacy of light. And the Panther. And then EM. EM8 was coming up here. So Sunfire and the Dragon Pyramid, and remember pyramid is the solar plexus, the pyramid, the midsection of fire, right, of fire in your belly. And this was so funny too, because one of the cloud pics I just posted was what looked like a dragon, kind of hawk or eagle, and on its belly was a face looking like, oh no, like I'm going to land on my belly. It was like a separate face from their head. It was really funny. Not realizing that the eagle was about to take a dive, right? They were sailing straight through until the end. The solar plexus fire in his belly, worried about the belly flop. The eagle dragon in the clouds yesterday with the oh no face on their belly. And again, this was before the game. Purging so that the pages can fall back together again in a weaving pattern, top down, with bow at the tail. The fairy dragon tail, which actually is what I named that little mini video that I posted about the Dragon Fairy Tale, which if you haven't watched it at least 3 times, you should, because the things you see in that video or in the one picture, because it's one picture transforming into many different things, there's so many different pictures in that picture. So check it out again if you haven't seen it. And it has snow falling. And it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. If you really pay attention to it, you will definitely feel connection. So tying things off at the solar plexus in the intersection with no need to go back into the fire pit of being scorched or score by life force. Dreams come true, nesting the golden egg, and storks, looking up, having made their bed. With the Queen of Cups and the Knight of Swords, legacy of light, the Georgia Sea, or leg in alternating currents here at the Y in the road. So the legacy was coming up as the leg, the ace, and the Y in the road of light, right? The Y is the 0 point. And so then light and legacy were coming up as the LIG and the LEG of the leg. And LIG is to lie, to be at rest, remain. I won't read you the whole list, but the weight or the anchor, or in other words, regarding like the 4D or the 3D, weight and height were coming up there regarding mass. And then, of course, light is something very different, the LIG. But the weight came up with LIG, and then to shine or become light, which can also be evil and wicked here, bad and nasty, and cowardly, pregnant with child, equal to be, stand, sit, the neck, fire, and the flame all came up with LIG, and league and liquor as well. And then, of course, you know the leg that you stand on, which also the word leg, he, LEGHE, came up as well, with league and distance. The hollow leg comes up as a hollow tube, referencing the thigh muscle as well, or a protrusion, right? It's a projection of your body. It supports. And also, I love this definition, side of batsman's legs in cricket. So not Batman, but batsman legs, right? So the one who's up to bat, it's the other side of the way he bats. The side of batsman's legs, the gesture of submission, the branch and lateral circuit, the bow, the uterus comes up under leg as well. Did you know that? As well as to read in the law, the shark and the shin, or the shank, the stem of the wine glass, the burial place, afterbirth as well from calving. So light and legacy coming up here as light being the weight and the height, and how airy and light and how sparkly and shiny in the height of their glory of legacy, the distance of the sea of emotions. And then the legacy of the LEG, he, which also can bring up to lie down, to bind, the legacy of anchorage, to drift, lying in bed, being loose or careless, lodge, den or cave. And again, we talk about Batman, and now the Bat Cave is coming up. And this can reference alone or remuneration as well. To lay down, anchor, be equal to flame, neck to throat, to batsman's side at 11:59, again, the 11th hour right before noon. So the LIG of light and the LEG of legacy, to lie down, rest, allow, and to be, and then play, hollow, bow and tie. And the bow is coming up as the bowing, the curtsy, but also the bow, and then the tie of the binding, the reed and to read, to find the place of rest after birth of calf, the whispering bench of all twin gamma rays, the capital T of the top dog, and the two U's in, which is the twin, TWN. And God Amma, or Gamma, is G and Amma, or Amma. God Am Ma, or Umu comes up here as well, is that energy of the mother. And the rays, so the rays spelled as R-A-Y-S, but also R-A-I-S-E. 2 N's for every U, and lowercase n for me is Jesus, and U, of course, is the cup, and U. But it's coming up the need for 2 N's for every U, and God Amma for the gamma ray, and the energy again of the M's and the U's of Uma, of arching the wings back and forth. Again, the 2 positions of the M and the U of the bird flying with their wings up and then their wings down again, but being very, not like a V, but like a U, very flexible and circular. The legacy of light with height, and the leg of the air conditioning at the Y in the road, and must lay down to raise the height. The legacy of going the distance of light, or height and weight, getting to the other side of the ray, the arc, the rainbow, or bow for the pot of gold. There's that cup again at the end of the rainbow, the Holy Grail, which is the pot of gold. Right? The gold is on the inside, not the outside, the pot of gold. The belly of the Ancient One, the solar plexus or intersection, the quantum entanglement with the One, and One, which is own E. And E is one equal and congruent to. And E is also any. To own E or owe any. Human to use any. Where any is also the arrow. We and us, as we talked about, the bow came up, and now here's the arrow. To become, we, us, human, person, house, and water and river. The knots, as in K-N-O-T-S, and the tag question, don't, should, shall, stop, all these negative energies, and then snow from there. Truly indeed, want, lip, mouth, snout, edge, bite, to eat, and sting. The number 4, and take, and the energy of sinking down, and the I, as in the I that you see with, and whatever, and all the no's and nots that come up with this definition, and Sophia now, as opposed to yes, which is give. So it's like Sophia demanding now, as opposed to the masculine energy being yes and give. So the snow knots, as in K-N-O-T-S, versus the bow ties that bind, and the Y-E-S of the 0 point of Sophia, where the snow then has to melt and the bow tie has to loosen, right? This is about compromise and coming together. For the bow or bow and arrow to meet the target, right? So we always talk about the bow and arrow coming together, but it's not about the bow and arrow coming together. It is about the bow and arrow coming together, but we never talk about the target, right? For the nothing will happen. You won't hit the target unless you bring the bow and arrow together first. So for the bow and arrow to meet the target right in the middle, after target practice, if the bow and arrow never come together on the same page, or in other words, binding, how can the arrow hit the target? The show is over. Take a bow and arch her. The show is over. Take a bow and arch her. Carefully pull back and fully let go. With faith, the arrow will meet its match when you lean in for a closer look or a kiss. It doesn't really matter where you hit the circle, as long as you get in there. The rest will take you the distance. The bed is made, the die is cast, the story of your death, your dark night and bright light, the directing cast to bed and wed and play the part. Neanderthal or Shakespeare. Gestein, the rock's hollow or shaky sphere. Or shake, ESP here. or that's the shock rather. So Gestein, the rock's hollow or shaky sphere, or shock that ESP is here. After rocks energize. So there was that energy of the rocks, and the energy of the rocks always reminds me of the marketplace in Jesus Christ Superstar. And of course, right after that, I wrote that. After the shock of the ESP that's here, or especially here, after rocks energize, the rocks and stones begin to sing. Hey, Zana, ho, Zana, 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 hey, Zana, ho, Zana, hey, Zana. Hey, JC, JC, won't you fight for me? Hannah's a superstar. So anyway, it references the needle in the haystack. Hosanna means please save. It's a cry or praise of adoration of God, but it means please save. And sana means down a long distance, to prove, to contradict, affirm, or make good, assert, to prove something true or be true, which is counterproductive here, right? Because we're talking about faith and asking for proof. Hey, JC, won't you fight for me? Why waste your breath moaning at the crowds? Nothing can be done to stop the fighting. If every voice was still, the noise would still continue. The rocks and stones themselves would start to sing. So hey, show me my faith was not in vain. And yet faith is to not need proof, knowing all is as it is. At 12:45. With the dragon with a fire in their belly, who ties a bow at the golden age of dawning, nesting the dream, the crane and storks, all necks and legs, flexing and arching and looking to rewrite the story by looking up, by loosening the bow or bow, and melt the ice, as the Knight of Swords with a gift under one arm and her in the other, as Black Panther comes in to trigger the Emperor's old memories with a memo. And will he bite or take the bait? At 12:51 is the Hanging Man and the King of Swords, the underlying energy, the 45, of walking the plank, and endings in the sunset where you are held. With the 37 of the King of Cups, and detaching from drama or Dr. Amma, and look up at the dragon, Dr. Agon or Agoner, or dragging on and on with fire in the belly to breathe and inspire means the same thing. The ether of the dragon breath, which is either or, the Father King of Cups or the dragon's son, or my son, the Doctor, and I am nothing. The dragon is equal to breathe on, to find that fire within when you feel you don't have it. At 12:56, the Hanging Man and the Two of Swords, and the one of the 14, the boundaries set daily, with auric keys, or the OU of gold rickeys. Okay, so auric keys comes up as gold rickeys. And a rickey is a stack, full of, a heap, loose jumble, or poor condition, or an emancipated individual or animal. The needle in the haystack, in other words, something that's hard to find or mess, in need of organization, or to put organs in their correct place for the body to work properly. So clean up this month and find the key, with a clear shot to the sun, the dawning of the golden age, and angelic realms, calm, ease, and grace, as opposed to patience, right? Which are people in a hospital. You don't want to be there. The patience that you have to be patient is seals. And then the patients that are in hospitals are ties. So to ease into God's race, the ray of C, the whispering bench, our ace in the hole, the ray of C, the ray of Christ consciousness, of the E's, or E-A-S-E, E-C, R-A, and C, as G is in between there. And this is all has to do with God's race. So God's race is G race, which is grace. And God's race here was coming up as G and then the RA of race and then the CE, or just the C, because CE spells C. So we have the E's into God's race. So the E and the C come up from E's of G's RAC. And it literally comes up as EC with G in the middle, and then RAC or JC of will and EC of grace. And will comes up as two that are ill, or grace that comes up as still one. So ECs and gray C and JC, we all see of IC, not ice cream, but the I scream as the inner child. And notice that ice cream is IM on either end with CECR in the middle, which is turbulent and quarrelsome, scolding or shrew. And this is interesting too, the word shrew. You know, the shrew is the old woman or boisterous man. It says in the definition, but no one ever has used that word on a man. So I was looking up to see if there was another word for shrew that is said to a man, and there is none. And as a matter of fact, the website I ended up had a comment about someone saying that there is no word, because what happens here is that in looking up turbulence, turba is the crowd or the mob, the path of the brawl, the graveyard. And ice cream is the shrew and the whirs, which is shrew backwards. So since I couldn't find a word for the masculine for shrew, I just put it backwards to look up to see what it meant. So WERHS, the closest thing was WERS, which is worse, and then WERHAD, which is the male gender. So literally what it was telling me is being called a shrew is the same thing as being called a man, because the man is already the things that they call the shrew for, right? So the woman acting like a man is called a shrew, but a man acting like a man is called a man. So that was very interesting. So the ice cream, or the IC of the inner child, is the IM with shrew and the equivalent, or man, before death in the middle. That when a woman acts like a man, she is called names, deeming her completely unworthy from a condescending, arrogant, unloving man. At 121, and the leap to the world, or completion. So what was coming up around this is the dynamic between the typical status, right, of the nagging housewife and the arrogant man, right? And which came first, the chicken or the egg? Did she start nagging first, or did he start being condescending first? And again, they're playing on the two sides of the same coin, right? Because you're always playing off of each other's wounds. And it's about each taking responsibility for their own selves and then coming closer to the middle, which then will dissipate both of their problems. And then they won't behave that way anymore. But again, you can't make somebody else do the work. So if two people aren't doing the work, it won't work. So the 30 of the union and the silver sword pulled from a haystack at the full moon, with slow pressure pushing the invading virus or bacteria out of the body or sea, just like if, there's something left over in the body after surgery. If it's close to the skin, the body will work its way out slowly. It'll put slow, constant pressure on that piece until it comes out of the skin. So the silver sword is coming up as that energy coming out of the water, though, like the lady in the lake. The silver sword pulled from a haystack, or a drop of water from a whole bunch of drops of water at the full moon, where slow pressure pushes the invading virus or bacteria out of the body or sea, to culminate in explosive full expression, settling after the Khan descending home back to me. Okay, so here's that energy after the Khan, or the culmination here of the fight. Then you descend back to home again, coming back to yourself again. So the pressure, again, the full moon causes all that pressure building up inside your body, wanting to explode and come out, to culminate in explosive full expression that then settles after the Khan, which is the culmination, right? The peaking out of exploding, getting pissed off, and then descending back home to me. The tomb of ABCs, the middle, then the E, or D apostrophe E, where D and E are said together, to me. And remember, the D is a 1 and the backward C, or the other parenthesis. Remember, parenthesis is the pair, the paren, the C's, or pairing up the two C's, the two parentheses. So remember, the D is the short way of expressing the M, which was originally written with two parentheses and a 1 in the middle. And the D is just a shorthand cut of writing M. But now it's the letter D. So D and M are really the same letters here. And C, so again, after the con, descending back to me, in the tomb of ABC's, middle, then with the EN of the E, or D apostrophe E, of E, where D and E are said together, to me, as the 1 and parenthesis, or the D, equals the 2 parentheses and 1, which is the M, but just shortened a bit. A C, the letter C, to be exact. So notice it said AC, to be exact. So again, going back to the ABCs of it. So the 41 of the Ace of Cups, as above, below, as above, so below. So here we have our ABCs, where above is by, or from above, or the ox, or boss, the cow, bull, or ox. So as A, the cow, and ox or bull, so B, low. A, hugs and kisses, or BS, and B, to lie, rest, to be close to the sea level, sad, bad, weak, or depleted, near the equator, grave, in pitch, or flat, plain, simple, and slow, close but no cigar, fire, blaze, flame, and round, uncivilized, to allow, permit, or to justify at 133, the 1 of the masculine and the Christ vibration. So this play between the A and B, right? If this, then that, and so on, the ABCs of relationships, there's always a choice on either side of A, hugs and kisses, or the BS of the bullshit, right? So hugs and kisses of the ox, OX, or the BS of the bull. And the B, to lie and rest and be close to the sea level, which can also represent all these negative things. Being on the flatlands is coming up as something negative. Right? Because when you're on the flatlands, it can all go up in a blaze, or you can have a tidal wave go over you. So as above, or ABO, to hunt, or public transportation, water, humidity, here and he, of the egg. So as AB together is the hunt, or the egg and transport, of sweat and crying together. And the B, to rest near the equator at sea, which is flat and plain, sad, weak, depleted, and is the flame. With the A being 2 openings, the mouth of kisses and hugs, and the butt for BS. And if A takes in and poops out above, then B is being shit on. And again, being played, got close but no cigar. You let them kiss you and BS you, so they think you deserve what you get. So as above, so below. Why not B, C, in between, the whispering bench, the ocean of emotion, and mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. So AB and BC, or is that AD and BC, since B equals 13, which is death, and AD is after death, by the cow, ox, or bull, or boss, below. So BC, C and C, the letter, the ocean, and the eyes, the coming, the second one. The 41 of the Ace of Cups and the Holy Grail, and reflecting compassionate hearts, the children and the grandchildren who long to come back to the other side. There's this energy of the splitting of the family, and then the more you get out to the children and grandchildren, the more they long to come back to the trunk. with 2 cards here of the 40 and 31, the Page of Cups and the 5 of Wands, the innocent and vulnerable and the mob, and the 4 lambda leap with source support between the 3 and the 1 is the 4, right? You have to go to leap to the 4th in order to come back and start a new cycle at the 1 again in the 3-1 connection. Hitting up source before starting a new cycle. It's like coming home before moving or something like that. The birth of the sweetheart and the phased arrays and transformation of light and dark, of the sweetheart and dark shadows. Barnabas Collins and Barney and Joan, or Barney on the bus in a call-in, or company of Lins with flax, lens, lentil, and pulse. And as soon as I wrote down Lins, I was getting the reference to lens because L-E-N-S keeps coming up. But then lens came up in the definition of lens. So it's all a wash. So at 2:14, which is Valentine's Day tomorrow, the company of lens. And notice lens is not only your eye lens, or the way we see through things, but it's also the name Len, and many of them, or Leo, because Len is Leo the lion. With the company of lens and lentil, or len until, and pulse. Multiple lions and the ganglion, 2 sides of the same coin. The Kohan, the co-pilots, or 2 at the Happiness Hotel. Or lens till there's a pulse. Okay, so 2 at the Happiness Hotel, or 2 at lens until there's a pulse. A pull southeast, or into a sudden event. The evolution, or evolution, and T in transformation, where Lu and 4 popped out of both of those words, evolution and transformation, as the feminine human Lu Tyon, the tiger lioness, and the trans of the 4 Ma Tyon of the tiger lioness. One being the human Lu and the other one being the 4 Ma, or the godly mother. And at 2:19 is the feminine and the sun, the underlying energy of the 28 and the hollow bone, the 61 of the whale song, the 31 of in the hand, and 21 of the first breath, 22 of the fool's embrace, 36 of lost in space, and 45 of repairing the veil. The twin flames risk the mob to get to source, and be whole in the fool's leap to Atlas, needing direction, purging the story with forgiveness, repairing the fragile layer, the thin-skinned veil, and the twin flames hollow themselves to resonate, or reason, or re-sun, second sun, and the risk of the bubble phased arrays, as when the heart is in the hand, the universe is the partner. The wailing sun now resonating, feeling her golden heart being handed over completely, that she had fully trusted him and put her heart in his hand, having faith at that point that he'd do the right thing with it. But it took a while for her to get from his hand to his heart for his first breath, from 31 to 21, the wholeness of the beginner's mind, taking a risk to go against the mob and come full circle in the fool's embrace of their pain, in child's pose, and taking the leap, with Atlas lost in space, when left the world, with Hercules, or her harvest, handing his responsibilities over to her, and running for the hills, and must then purge to find their way back with the sunset. Repairing her veil with self-forgiveness, Sophia's elf 4 give, the Christ of the capital N, and the E, which is 1 equal and congruent to double S's. Say it soft and it's almost like praying, Sophia. And then we have wisdom of the Sophia, the wise do M, or co-create, or keep company with Creator. At 2:39, as I'm getting big connection there, 2:39 is the feminine and the Knight of Cups. And the first card here is the 42 of the 2 of Cups and the Netcaster, and how their preparations have come to fruition. The 2 of Cups veil, which is, remember, the veil is also netting, clearing the path for the Hermit, moth and or purging one and all, dancing on one foot with a leg up to go the distance, and lig, L-I-G, on to raise the vibration of height and weight, less mass and more shine. He had used her veil in the wrong application, as a filtering grid, as opposed to he was using her veil as a filtering grid as opposed to a veil that softens her glow so that he could make it down the aisle of I will, right? So the veil is now, it's making her glow not so intense so that mass can actually handle the energy of it. He had used her veil in the wrong application as a filtering grid as opposed to softening of her glow so that he could make it down the aisle, I''LL, of I will, or I feel, I am, willing you. The aisle, the map of intent, the marriage of the two eyes when working together to see both sides are balanced. The one of a tidy house in the leap for clarity and organization and alignment with the one. But remember that the one and the leap is the balance between control and chaos, that only in death is there control back to oneness again. So it's not about being a neat freak, right? It's about balance. It's about being tidy, neither spanking clean or nor is it a mess where you can't function, but somewhere in between that makes you both comfortable and happy. Where one card here is number 14, the drifter of the angelic realm, experiencing life as it comes, a second time. And time, T-I-M-E, which is the T of the top dog, and the I am, the I'm, and the top dog, I, me. That time equals source me, time out. And the underlying energy of the 27 of unexpected incoming, or income, and the 12 of the 7 of Pentacles with 2 owls, and the 13 of the wealthy man, and transition, the 39 of the dice, 33 of concern, 41 of the well, and 17 of the Queen of Cups' dream. So 2-7 comes up here, and February 7th just passed, which was, we were right at the end of the full moon there, and the exchange of hands, putting the heart, the queen, the coin or kohan in hand, the high priestess and the chariot in 2023, the King of Wands' is wake-up call, page to page, or penny, a pen and NY, or a fresh new novel way of looking at things, or waxing moon from the new moon, and then the capital N of the Christ energy. And capital N is also the letter Nu, and that brought up my great aunt, Nunu, which is grace. The new moon of 2:20 at 2:06 a.m. Eastern Standard Time also coming up here. This was waxing to the last full moon, past the culmination of 2:7 after the peak on 2:5 or 6, a new contract or change with the Ace of Wands inspiration and wise counsel, or seeing to retirement, the grounder and the flyer, and the 1-2 punch, or perhaps a prenup, and the lawyer to reap rewards, or wise transition with the divine feminine's heart, the Knight of Cups rolling the dice, taking a chance, with the 33 of the Christ vibration standing up for themselves with concerns of martyrdom, in a big new love, the Holy Grail, diving deep with well wishes in a brand new day, and leaving the pot of gold in the up position, not down under, the roof that represents her name, the well, the boring past, the other half, and the pot of gold, the space between, where we both hit the jackpot, with 3 keys hanging in limbo, the tree keys, or branches that made the nest, or the bird feeder to bring only the best, or 13 of transition of the Est, or EST, Eastern Standard Time. That the buck stops here in the East, in the dawning of the divine feminine watery meadow, her harvest, her rare, sparse, uncommon EST equals her grace, her favor, her being, the East, I am her horse, where the horse sees the eve and the evening, or sharing equally the east-oriented south here, her kindness and pleasure, of plea and shore, in the envy of capital N and V of Christ's creation, or Estonian, or ease stone, or rock, or second person of mind, which is MYND, which means goes around, will come, to approach, strike, trample, and drive, to go and become, two birds, whether owls, storks, or cranes, nesting the dream, with the Queen of Hearts, from 2-7 to 12 to 13 and 29, from March 9th to 33, or that's April 2nd, because we're skipping over the 1st through the 17th. So we're going through the 17th, but just skipping over April 1st. So February between January, March, and April, for getting things in order, inspired to end the story, the straight path of the Y in the road, the 0 point field, as the buck stops here at the Y in the road. The 29 as she's living the dream, the truth of Excalibur, and is someone watching from the woods, or seeing toxicity in the 7 of the chariot, Cancer, or the Queen of Wands, or in the apple tree, getting to the source of the problem, or the Queen of Wandsness, the 10 of the high vibe destiny to discern or chop away the unnecessary, with or as the Page of Pentacles, or two queens sharing the yard and the housework, and cleaning the windows together at 3:30, which is the Empress and the home, or the union. So we then had 43, 38, 24, and 22 coming together at 3:30 of the Queen of Cups and the Queen of Wands, with some hard work, and the Page of Cups is love, and a leap of faith between the Queen of Cups and Queen of Wands, and the Page of Pentacles perhaps as well, and the Page of Cups. And the pages can be children, pets, or messages there. And then the Queen of Pentacles is added in here too, in cleaning up the hedges and working their way to the middle, reflecting swans and dreams of Cancer, Libra, Aries, Pisces, and Virgo, perhaps Gemini and Sag here too, with two swans as one at the Y in the road, or nursing a friend back to health, or moving in together, or dealing with healthcare systems. And the 9 of the Hermit and the Queen of Swords with flowers and or gifts from main male number 1. All 4 Qs present here, or queens, and notice the 4 is the lambda leap, and the Q is also that leap with the circle and the line, right, of the leap of a new soul coming in. So all 4 Qs are present, or party for one, with message of concern from Saggy. The King of Cups, or patient, or about one of those, about the main male, or emperor, or father's house, with a nurse, patient, work, house, and flowers here. All 4 queens, all getting there in their own time, with gifts for the main male, the father, or emperor, or an engagement or birthday party, perhaps for an old man, or making amends at home union, or the Om, spiritual, mature, peaceful union, and or lots of flowers, perhaps from the Knight of Cups. So at 3:46, the Empress and the 6 of Cups, where the 31 is the Christ flame and the 43 is the bridge, where the bride offers herself. And now I'm getting Miranda on the bridge. I didn't mean to say bridge, but that's the way I wrote it. So the Christ flame and the 43 have coming together as the bride offers herself, perhaps on the bridge, like Miranda, and the 53 of the legacy of light, after acceptance of the truth, and the sensual awakening to bliss. The 26 of the Page of Wands, inspiring as the guardian of the soul family. The birthing of the sweetheart and the lion's heart, the Christed flame in the chaos or leap before, jumping into a new cycle. So the leap isn't the jump, but leaping in before, like going within, the leap within, before jumping into the new cycle. So again, to check in with yourself, with Source, before the bride is in turbulent waters, offering herself, coming together with the Knight of Swords, messenger of truth, or the Knight with legacy of light, camping out together, where the sun or sun is missing their Queen of Cups. At 3:53 is the Empress and the Knight of Swords, and the 40 of the Page of Cups in the void. The Page of Cups as the 33, the totally innocent one, where God speaks through the sweet heart As the Knight of Swords, light shines through them. The Knight of Swords and the Page of Cups standing up for themselves, as God speaks through you as you. The 37 of fire and ice, and alchemizing polarized energies in unconditional love, cutting away the crap or the extraneous. At 358, the Empress and the Four of Swords, or the 5D connection, with one card here, which is the 63 of stress and the light field, fully exposed in the middle of that bridge as the shitstorm approaches. The Sun, the drifter, or Dr. Ifter, in mature, spiritual, peaceful union. And then the storm hits when unprotected. The field, the bridging effect. At 402, the underlying energy of the eagles putting their feelers out before jumping in or camping out to be the swans with unicorn. And third eye of dear one, when the cobra is on high alert. Observing and zoned in on the truth factor, unable to lie around them. So here's that energy of worrying about being around someone because you can't lie around them because they feel your energy. As crouching tiger and hidden lamb. At 405 is a space between the Emperor and the Hierophant, or the stability and the freedom. The target of the space program, or programming, and got lost with buffalo, fox, cheetah, and panther all witnessing, or in the witness protection program. The eagle, with the unicorn here, and the deer, and we're the swans here, or Delaware Company, Babel. When the student is ready, the teacher comes, in the eye of the tiger, as the tiger or source may be approaching, but it's the panther who's the one that you need to watch out for because he's in the dark. Sourcing egg and lamb, or LA major ball, or bat, or female bat, for the bat cave, well grounded. Foxy and good chi, or Gouda cheese, or bat girl seeking buff fox cheetah with a triggering dark side, or the crow's backlash. Or maybe that's the crew's backlash. So the group that they hang out with. Or everyone is getting ready for the Super Bowl game day at mid-moon, or a bunch of wildcats out on the prowl. At 417 of the Emperor or stability and the 17 of the star are healing, and the cosmic egg of the crowning moment in a vacuum. The stress is on, the church bells broken, on the ground with the troops awakening to preparations, to the eerie silence of the void as I lost my voice, and the storm brewing underneath. The stingray plugged in to the elephant and turned on, as the elephant continues step by step, with flawed tusk to carry the flame and trunk, and red eye, perhaps someone taking a red eye, better to hear you, my dear, with their big ears, where the panther may be the kickoff, with all eyes on, lighting up the collective spine, the backbone, the path in gray of the rainbow ray, of the fracturing of the white or diamond ray, as God, just like others, infiltrates into dark matter to bring the light. In a sting of cosmic projection of ray, the urgent scrambling for her to catch her breath as Ellie pants in the red, orange, yellow rays, raising the flame to violet, creating IOL as opposed to AOL, I online and, or ET, blasting through the divine feminines to any little needle that was missed or overlooked, clearing you out as much as possible before the whole truth comes in. One card of the turtle and no man left behind, in the dark struggling and slow trying to do damage control in the middle of a shitstorm on the bridge in the dark. The turtle with traveling home, of course. And at 4:30 of stability in the leap to the home or the Om, the union. And the King of Swords with the Nine of Pentacles and High Priestess, inspired the Page of Wands by the Knight of Wands coming as the King of Pentacles, full who's freed by the Page of Pentacles invitation, making them happy, as the Knight of Swords rushes delivery from the Six of Cups children, where the wounded warrior is on guard, or this is two neighbors talking about a third neighbor, one with the Nine of Wands, or the wounded warrior, and one with two discussing whether or not to each offer the other one. Perhaps they're offering a delivery of flowers to butter them up, in a bold move of justice, and the Queen of Wands, or the Queen of Wands with a message from the world, divine feminine, or their neighbor, or about manifesting big, or the Super Bowl with the Queen of Pentacles and the Page of Cups, or Libra and the Queen of Wands receive a message from Pisces and Virgo and or Gemini, or mom and two kids, or the Queen of Wands and Queen of Pentacles are getting together at 4:35. The Emperor, or stability, the home, and the wounded warrior. So the Queen of Pentacles with a loving message, or with the Page of Cups. So the Queen of Swords then approaches the Emperor about it. Or now it's just the Queen of Swords and the Emperor alone. And maybe they don't want to be alone in the house together after the kids have all gone. So the Nine of Swords is perhaps the Queen of Swords, unable to sleep in the energies of the collective, or with noise outside, or preparations, or silence is too much for them in the energies of the game day. With Two of Cups and the Knight of Cups, and the Emperor stressed out about connecting as the Knight of Cups, and that she may feel it coming, right? So, and again, that could be stress from the masculine, knowing anything they decide to do, that you may feel it coming, and maybe they don't want you to know that they're surprising you. So the Dark Knight meets the Hermit with Aries, Scorpio, and Virgo, with the King of Wands, or the Knight of Cups, and the Dark Knight, or Scorpio, approaches the Hermit, or Virgo, with the King of Wands standing by, or perhaps this is a pet on guard, or is that a second suitor, the Knight of Pentacles, offering to be lovers with the Empress? Or Dark Knight and the King of Wands run into each other out front, or while Scorpio and the Knight of Pentacles start chatting with the King of Wands and the Empress, the Knight of Cups goes in for the kill to propose to the Queen of Cups to be her King of Cups, or the Queen of Cups and the Knight of Cups and the King of Cups, and one must go, adios. We have both the Lovers and the Devil card here, or multiple kings, or Super Bowl party, where the Devil or Capricorn, or the King of Swords, shows up unexpected at 4:50. The Emperor and the Ten of Cups, or the Emperor and the Page of Cups, which could be the same person, right? The Emperor and his inner child, may be now home alone, and everyone else has gone off to the party. Perhaps they're worried that someone may say something to her if they are not present or there. So that was that message. That was a long one. So then, let's see where we are here. So then the Planet of the Apes came up for me as well. And one of the things I always remembered from being a young person, when I watched the Planet of the Apes, where at the end of the movie you just see the baby left in the cage all stranded, that traumatized me. It was like it was so awful to me to see that little baby at the end of the movie. I just cried and cried and cried and cried. So there again is the energy of the Neanderthal being seated, and perhaps babies being jailed or left alone or separated from their families. And there was this big wound there for the collective. And the energy, again, the Planet of the Apes, I wrote that down too, and it was coming up with that same energy as the filleted heart, the heart that was cut wide open, and the phoning in of the Mary Magdalene, the mother, to levitate and be received. Adele was coming up there too. And the letters of Mr., Miss, and Ma, ECAGL, received, to float and be clear. A residential center for asylum seekers came up. And again, the energy of the divine feminine's lunacy. And it was so weird that lunacy came up then, because then I was watching something, and I think her last name might be Luna or something like that. And they were having a big birthday party for her. So, so then today came after the Super Bowl, which of course was close but no cigar, and that's why I wasn't getting definitive there, because the whole point was the fun of watching that game. And if you're trying to get someone to win, I can't do that with sports, because too much anxiety. I feel everyone feeling that, and I can't handle it, and it makes me really stressed out. So it's about enjoying the game and not who wins. And again, the eve of lunacy, and very much the Super Bowl is one of those, right? And again, a leash for the hawk came up here. The divine feminine has a leash for the hawk, so they don't get too far away. And again, there's that cord coming up. In a silly, crazy night, to see the war as humorous. And so I did my meditation again last night to see what came up. And it wasn't as much about, I was in space again, but this time it wasn't a white space suit. It was again a black space suit, and it was much more modern and streamlined, as the white was more bulky. And so I examined my body, my feet and hands more closely to get more descriptions of it. And I was getting like my feet and hands as, I couldn't tell if the toes were definitely grouped together, like 3 on one side and two on the other. And the hands were either, it was, I don't know if there were 4 fingers or 5 fingers, but the middles, all the middle fingers were grouped together anyway. There was like a thumb and a pinky with a group of fingers in the middle. But again, it was that Neanderthal energy. And the feet were much more wide at the toes than ours would be, and then, you know, taper back to the heel more. I also saw 2 white people, and I got the impression that this man and woman, they looked very much like they weren't in royal dress. They were in normal dress, but acting like they were above everybody, right? Kind of pacifying you. And I was getting like the Neanderthal man meeting this man and woman who were some kind of elite mother and father to supposedly comfort them, who had a bit of an air about them, or ego. So at the seating, that we were dealing with these 2, and again the black spacesuit came up, and the lunacy of all of this, and again the reference of the sea and the holy sea, the lunacy and the sea of the Christ vibration, and the sea of the whispering bench, and then the distortion of that being the holy sea. And so then why is the name for the Pope the Pope? Because there's always going to be a reason for everything in symbolism. And the POPE came in because the P, the capital P, with B and D is the safety pin. My safety pin example on how the feminine and masculine work together to collect the sun energy and harness it in a vacuum. This is the safety pin. So the capital P is the housing, and the B and the D, the B is the masculine, the small d is the feminine, as they come together to make the pin. And that's literally the Pope, because if you take the OPE and you turn the P around, it literally becomes the D, with the E and the O are the 2 overlapping O's, because when they overlap, it makes one look like an E. So it's literally, Pope is literally the safety pin. The eve of humorous war, the eve of the satellite, of the sea, and sea, the sea of the Christ consciousness, the sea of emotion, the holy sea, or the eye that's always watching you, but also the seizing comes up there too. And then suspended animation always comes up with the seizing. The Hydra is also coming up here. So Hydra, the constellation, and the dragon and the snake and the pin go hand in hand. I'm like, okay, so why does Hydra and the pin go hand in hand? And it was very interesting the way it came up. So I'm going to allow it to unravel organically. So I didn't pull any cards this morning. All I did was, I watched Sam this morning. So Sam, I'm not going to give away his whole video because you should watch his video, but so when I watched his video, the Galactic Federation he was channeling were identifying the year 2030 as when the 75,000 year cycle actually begins in the fourth density. And again, also clarifying dimension and density. It was very interesting. And again, talking about the earthquake in Turkey as well, which is important because I already knew astrologically, I'd come across somebody's website last year, and we're supposed to, the earthquakes, the sensitive lines, like in the Memphis area, and then of course the California quake lines are supposed to be very sensitive to activation. I think it was around April, but I can't remember the dates. But they were talking about that too, that this was like the beginning of the shifting of the plates a little bit at a time, all the way up to 2030 in preparations for the fourth density. So again, as we all knew as well, that there'd be a lot of people leaving the planet who don't want to be here to ascend. And again, the differences between density and dimension came up. And of course, the only thing I really noticed that's different about what we would normally think as humans is that when they talk about density, they talk about it from an opposite perspective from us, because we see density as mass, where they see density as consciousness. So my whole thing from today started from density and dimension. And of course, dimension has to do with, a line, a square, a cube, and then adding time to it, or a fourth part that you can't see because it's behind the three dimensions that we can see. So the diamonds, the dimension, as I always talk about, is the diamond's connection. And mens means people, not just men, but people, humans. So two people connection is the dimension, or two people or divided people connection. And density is dens, or caves, and cities, den, city. The caveman, the country or the city. The dens, the thick, the projection. So the dense is also the part of the axis vertebrae that sticks up and the atlas sits on it. So the dense is the process, the thing that sticks out, projecting from the anterior centrum of the axis vertebra, or the tooth, it's like a tooth, on which the atlas rotates, the vertical axis. And that's the vertical axis was just me responding to that. And also the axis was coming up like an axe, right? So this protrusion that comes out of the axis vertebrae is anterior, so it's on one end like an axe, it's not in the middle. So if you put an axe down on its back, the axe then becomes the dens, which then holds the atlas. So the projection of the second vertebrae acting out in envy or ill will, a destroying power. Dense is also in and within, inside. So density is dens, and then the I-ty, which the lowercase I is the chakra system, and ty, of course, is thank you or gratitude. And density is the dense and the city. The dens of outside the city, and then the city, of course, inside the city, which becomes then the den becomes the feminine, and the M becomes the masculine because of the C's, right? Because dense, the C is the Christ energy, the masculine energy, and then the opposite parenthesis is the feminine energy, or the S is the feminine energy. So we see density as mass. They see density as consciousness. So of course, as the higher the density is, the more condensed consciousness we have. There are many sub-densities within each density. And again, dens are like the vertical axis, like the axle for a car that the wheels spin on, except vertical. So I woke remembering a dream. It was so cute this morning. I woke remembering a dream. I was in my car listening to a song, and it might have been The Blower's Daughter, because that kept running in my background for the past few days over and over and over again. The Blower's Daughter, where, I can't take my eyes off of you. So that came up from the movie Closer. So I'm in my car, perhaps playing that song. I don't know. I can't remember now. But whatever the song was, they loved the vibration of it. And there was all these animals coming up to my window and like jumping up on my car so that they could see in my window. Like, so I had a deer like jump up on my door to look in. And I was just worried about them denting the car. I wasn't worried about the animals, but like the cats and the dogs, they were all jumping up and my window was open. So I just closed my window because I didn't want them to get in the car. But it was very sweet energy, like being in a Disney movie. So, so the pin and the Pope came up. And as I described, the capital P is the head of the pin. The lowercase b and d are the masculine and feminine, the lower part of the pin, where the two circles come together, where the feminine is the point that falls open to collect the sun, and then gets closed when they're done fill up into a vacuum, where then it feeds the feminine and then into the masculine back of the pin, and then when he uses up the energy, the pin then falls open again to fill up again. Or the Pope, like I said, the OPE, if it spins, it collapses right back into the pin and becomes the pin, with the O and the E and the P becoming the D. So the capital P and the lowercase b and d, or they also can be 1001, and then D181 also came up, and I was going to look that up, but I forgot to do that. Why don't we do that now? See what comes up in gematria. Maybe it'll be something significant. All right, so then D181 came up. So that's weird. It just comes up with the D. It's not incorporating the 181. So it's just literally the first entry is D and then BB and that kind of stuff. That's weird. So I'm going to put instead, D is number 4. So let's put 4181, see what happens. Ha! This is too insane. All right. So I put in 4181. The first entry is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And what did I just say? It was like I was in a Disney movie. That's crazy. I'm not going to even read the second one. It's vulgar. But you can read it if you want. But anyway, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was the first entry for 4181. How cute. Okay, so the PBD starts with PBDE, and that's so weird. I put that in to see if anything came up, a word came up for PBD, and only the acronym PBDE came up, and the last suggestion when I put in the spelling was pedophilia. How appropriate is that? So PBDE is polybrominated diphenyl ether. And PB means problem. It's the only definition in there. And then BP is the base pair, or the basis point. And P equals D, so the upper part of P is a D, and then 1 below, which then equals 2, because a D is a 1 and an arch, and the arch is just a 1, right? It's leaping from one side to the other. So they're both 1s, which then equals 2. And the 1 plus the arch on the feminine side, not the C, but the other C, brings us back to the M of the two parentheses with the 1 in the middle, where D is an abbreviation of M. But D equals 1. So what was I'm not going to go into all the explanation because I know it gets confusing. But M is the one with the two parentheses, but it's different, right? So the first parenthesis, which is C, with the 1 in the middle, which is source energy or creation medicine, there you go, or creation energy. And then the other parenthesis is the feminine aspect with source in the middle. So the feminine aspect with source in the middle is the letter D. Okay? And this parentheses with the 1 in the middle is same as writing 1V1. Okay? So V is the creator in the middle, with the two 1s of the masculine and feminine on either side, which are the parentheses. And remember the capital letter N is the two 1s reaching out to each other from different perspectives. But the 1V is not the same as the V1. The feminine aspect, which is the D, is all-encompassing of both masculine and feminine. So it's different than the 1V of the masculine. So the M, which is 2 1s and the V in the middle, is source, creator in the middle, and the divine feminine, at least, since the divine feminine incorporates both the feminine and masculine aspects naturally, but the N equals the divine masculine creating alone, because the N becomes the 1V as opposed to the V1. And notice the numbers there too. So the 1V is the 4 and the V1 is the 6 of the 46 of the children. And then coming into the middle, which is the 5, the change, the expansion, and the freedom. So the capital N equals the divine masculine creating alone. The divine feminine co-creates by herself with source, as long as she's connected to source. But the masculine can only connect that way with the divine feminine. And then PB came up from the acronym, as of course peanut butter came up in my mind, and then DE, which is Delaware. So I looked up peanut butter in Delaware to see what came up, and the suggestions that were coming up when I entered it were dementia, depression, and deer hunting. So peanut butter in Delaware, the only thing that came up were recalls from like 2009 on the government website for Delaware regarding salmonella poisoning. So there's also Teddy, my daughter's dog Teddy, has a little bit of a shake in his paw. So she had sent me a video because she saw a video about why the Aussie's paw shakes, and they were talking about having no joint buffering, right? Arthritis energies. But, you know, Teddy's a baby. He doesn't have arthritis. And they're talking about it being arthritis. And again, here, I right away was getting, it's the case of the chicken or the egg. They don't know which came first. But I'm telling you what came first. The Australian Shepherd's tail gets cut off. And they injured some kind of nerve. And because of the nerve issue and the shake, they then become arthritic over time. This is the message I was getting. And again, the energy is the same with the Australian Shepherd. Cutting off their tails is the same thing as circumcision, basically. You know, cutting off a part of the body that doesn't need to be cut off, right? That's the way we're made. So how are the pin and the Hydra pinwheel related? So I talked about the pin, the safety pin. And Hydra is hiding the ray, which also will come up in a minute regarding the shutter and the lens of the eye. So the snake is the Hydra constellation and the dragon, right? And the dragon that regrows their heads. And Hydra literally is a plant that looks like a pinwheel, right? So the bottom of the pinwheel, the energy of the penis and the ovary also came up here, and the vagina and uterus and the ovaries all together. All of this stuff was playing into this as I wrote down pin and Hydra to see what messages I got. And it was very interesting. So REM came up as well as PM and PEM, and Hagstorm, Magstorm, Ragstorm, and Nagstorm, and Shitfest, as well as Augustine, which I got a big connection with Augustine. And again, the picture of the ovaries came up, which looks like a ram's head. And then Ram's Gate, Lion's Gate, and Saggy Gate came up, which is, I always get as Mr. Ed, but Saggy Gate or the Archer Gate. And Sagiss means the cloak, to sew or weave, right? It's the protection cloak. And it's that 1221 energy. Sorry, I knocked this over. So what was also coming up here with August, literally in looking at the pin, the way I wrote it, pin and Hydra, I was getting August, turn, which is a shift. So August shift. And again, where Gestein came up, Stein was coming up again with stern as well. And again, that's rock. So hydra is the oral opening surrounded by the tentacles with naked cylindrical body. The water snake or dragon, of course, with multiple regenerating heads, 7 to be exact. And that 7 came up in Sam's video too, but I'll let you watch that to find out why. And again, it also, hydra is the complex problem that's not easily solved. And they always give the example of organized crime. So I took the word hydra in capital letters and expanded on it. So, you know, like capital H for me is also 4, and the Y in the road is 0 point, so 0, and then the D is the death card also, and 13. And again, I was just breaking down all the symbols that I just naturally was getting. And then the A was coming up as the TP with the stakes in the ground. And then I broke down even further. And it ended up being Lily, and then the 0 or space between, which can be space or 0 point field, and then DM with the Taurus and the TP. And again, Lilith just went into Leo in January. So the Lily comes up, the 0, and then the DM, and then the hourglass, like the middle of the Taurus where the 0 point is, and then the TP that's grounded into the earth. So the Taurus and the TP. So I was getting, if Taurus is the TP, because we have T and T, the capital T's, which is the top dog, then P equals Orus. So I looked up Orus, and the closest things that came up were Oresta, which is quick attack, battle, or onslaught, and then Oru, plural, which is gold. So Orus is multiple gold. It also means knight and the doorknob, the door handle. We're talking about the Taurus and the TP. So the P equals multiple golds or ancient ones with the T of TP, T being the top dog, and P being multiple gold ones, ancient ones, or gatekeepers of God, those closest to source without getting burned, the space between the top dog and the golden gate, the divine feminine with source and the divine masculine at the gate, because they will get burned if they get too close because they don't have that feminine aspect. The Hydra, which is, again, hide the ray or Ra, the pinwheel. So Hydra's the pinwheel. And the eye shutter, right? The pinwheel is the eye shutter or the lens, the iris. But the iris opens and closes the pupil, right, to let light in or not let light in to protect the lens. And again, lens comes up with dens and lion's den and the ganglions as well, all about the eye. So the lion's den, and then PBDE came up, the lion also being ego and the problem that's not easily solved. With peanut butter being broken up into the pea and nut and the butter cup, of 2 peas in a pod, my 698 pod, greased with butter of buttercup yellow, ending up as green and yellow, the peas and the butter. The 2 peas in the pod of the green and gold, which was so funny because the Eagles were playing after I wrote this down, or excuse me, last night. But green and gold kept coming up this week. So the pea was, as the nut, was also coming up as a pea size of butter, like just a little dab of butter, a little bit of grease is all you need for the nut in the cup. Then PN is also the pen, and this and that, and BU is this and these, the dog, water, the night, the bushel, the food or rice, the ox, the length of 1.818 meters. And what did I just look up? I looked up 181. But I had to put a 4 in there because it was D181, and this is 1.818. And also the area that equals 3.306 meters squared, and that's Japanese. It also is the mother, the father, the feather, the fur, the hair, and the nest. So the 69 is my 698 pod, as they're talking to or referencing the pea pod. So 69 was not coming up or referencing a sexual position here, but the oneness of being each other's shadow aspect. The two P's in the POD, the pod, which is also the pin. If you put the P, O, and the D together, it's the pin, exactly. And the wheel is the shutter, the I land. The II, Capitan, as well. The AYE and AYE of the two TPs with the 0 point field and the E, which is one equal and congruent to each other, where the one I is equal and congruent to the other I, but then the other I is equal and congruent to all the rest. So two TPs at 0 point leap to equal and congruent, one to the other and other to the all, like the Divine Feminine cares for the Divine Masculine and the kids, and the Divine Masculine goes to work to care for all. It's that typical understanding of the masculine and feminine roles of care. But the pod is the source connection of two humans together, guiding them. The B and the D, with the capital D of the divine, where she is the little d and he is the little b of the capital B, which you notice the D and the B in the capital is one full feminine leap, whereas the B is cutting that feminine leap in half so that the masculine can take the feminine energy in bits and increments as opposed to taking it in all at once. The small transition of the leap. One big leap is the one of point to point, but the 3 in the B is broken up into 2 leaps instead, 2 smaller leaps instead of one big one. The Divine Feminine in half doses, unable to leap all at once, or excuse me, the Divine Masculine. So the Divine Feminine's energy is given to the Divine Masculine in half doses as opposed to all at once, because he's unable to leap all at once. It requires a second chance or a second coming. So at 12:34 then, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, shut the door, I went in to look at the optic nerve, or the eye, and the connection of the eye to the head. And so an article came up about the optic nerve injury and eliminating the enzyme known to promote inflammation because it aids recovery. So the enzyme arginase 2 came up because 2 is the one that increases with an injury the inflammation, whereas the arginase 1 you want more of. So anyway, the solution to lowering the arginase 2 is to take more arginase 1, especially when in an injury in the first 7 days, because the swelling can cause more neuron death and degeneration of the nerve fibers in this situation of an injury. But just overall, it helps keep the swelling down. So to take more A1 to keep the arginase 2 in check. And that's kind of relating. I'm just seeing it now that's relating to what I was just talking about. So the A2 and 1 seem to be opposite, have opposite effects, where the A1, if the A1 is down, the A2 goes up and then causes more inflammation. After an injury, the A2 goes up. The retina and retinal ganglion, the ganglion or lion cells begin to die. So there's this relationship about what I was just talking about. So anyway, the supplement is L-arginine, if you want to try it out. I'm not a doctor, so I can't tell you what to take. I did order it. I'm going to try it out. I'll let you know if I see any significant results. But again, there's a lot of foods that have a lot of arginine in it, pumpkin seeds, but I don't know which arginine or if they always come together. I don't know how that works exactly, but just letting you know it came up. So back to the pod. And the pod of the 698 pod is the same shape as the eye's lens. Remember, the iris is the shutter, like the hydra. The pinwheel is like the shutter that opens and closes. And remember, the hydra also is hide ra, or hiding the ray, like the shutter does, not letting the light in. It protects the lens. And remember, lens is the lion's den. The Divine Masculine gets burned if they're too close to the source light. And then RIS came up with the iris, because I am RIS, because the iris is the shutter, right? Controls how much light does or doesn't get in. And as soon as I wrote down RIS, I was getting the rhesus monkey. And RIS is the curl, the ringlet, the lock, the loop, the criticism, the sweetbread, and as well the laughter, the pleasures, the climax, the story, the tale, the uncovered and exposed, the twig, the links, the bundle, which is like the rod is like a bunch of twigs, right? And a spanking all came up. And again, the parts of the eye, the aqueous humor, which is the clear watery fluid in the front of the eyeball, and the anterior chamber that creates that humor to flow in and out. And then the ciliary body that produces the aqueous humor. So the chambers where the humor flows in and out of, but the ciliary body produces the aqueous humor, or that liquid that lubricates your eye. And then the ligaments connect the ciliary body with the lens. And there's a lot, they're tiny, tiny vessels there. And I've had an experience of clotting off small vessels because of stress and because of D deficiency. So just make sure you're not vitamin deficient. You might want to have your vitamins tested if you've never done that. Most people are vitamin D deficient. So the iris comes up as I rise, I loop, I climax, I laugh. I am to hide the ray. I am exposed. I am the story. I am spanking. I am the high doctor of TP, or top dog golds. I Dr. T with golds. The night and the door handle. I am the climax to the story and the tale, the laugh, the exposure and spanking. I am the looping, the rising. I am the iris. I close the gate and open as needed, PRN. The golds, knights are the gate holders. They are the handle to get in. And I love that. Okay, so the gold, and then the gold flecks of the eye, like I have yellow in my eye, and they were coming up as the flecks being close to the pupil, the gate. The pupil is the PU pill at 136, the divine masculine and the atlas energy. The gold flecks close to the pupil, right? The gold is God's, right? The ones closest to God to protect the gate, the golden gate. The gold flecks in the eye that are close to the pupil, which is a student, and the PU pill, the pup that's ill, or IL, which means he in French. The capital P of PU, which we already discussed, the capital P is the housing, it's the divine one, the leap, and the U is the holder. So from the divine, the leap into the container of the U, and the leap into the chakra system, which is the lowercase I, and the ill, where then it's ILL, which is the 11. And 11 is L even. Okay, and even is Eve, and lowercase n for me is Jesus. So it's just saying they're all the same, whether it's Eve and Adam or Jesus and Mary Magdalene. It's using them interchangeably here. And literally the number 11 is L even. It's showing you one equal to the other. That N is Jesus, the lowercase n. For me, the capital N is Christ, and the lowercase n or EN is Jesus. So the divine masculine, who can only take half of the feminine at a time, as in the number 3, is 2 leaps instead of 1. And the N, which is the cup dumped over, but it's a half a cup, because he's only taking them in halves. So the N is dumping the feminine half that he took in out, unable to take it in, even though he only tried half. So the 1, 1 equals 2, and the 2, written loosely, is also the Q, one in both aspects here, that she is able to receive a soul as well as leap out to source. The 11 denoting both directions. And if the dimension is the mass or size of the length, height, and width, etc., or whatever it is, the depth and the depth, height, and length, I always forget what it is. But anyway, and if the dimension of the mass, size, and length, height, and depth, or whatever, is with direction, then the 1 of the ID here, and then this took me into physics.org, so phys.org, and the article was A Universe of 10 Dimensions. So I went into dimensions, and the 1D came up here as the dimension. There was a picture that I saw. That's why I went in here. There was a picture I saw that looked just like the eyeball, except it wasn't round. It protruded out and had to do with the Big Bang. So I'm like, oh, but the lens of the eye looked exactly like what they were demonstrating in this picture. So of course I had to go in and look what it was. So the dimensions example looks like the lens of an eye, and it was demonstrating the Big Bang, where the pupil in this picture was the quantum fluctuations, the iris was the inflation, and the lens was the afterglow light pattern of 400,000 years, behind which was the Dark Ages, and then behind that were the first stars of up to 400 million years ago. So the 1D is the x-axis length, the 2D is the y-axis height, or the example being the square, of course, and the 3D or z-axis is the depth and volume, and then 7 more dimensions that are not perceived by us because we can't see them with our human eyes. The 4D then involves time, knowing the position in time, with a projection that can't be seen from our view. It's like, having a 3D box that you can see as a cube, or it's like I always say, if you have 4 circles denoting a box, and you put a circle in the middle of those 4 circles, you can't see the circle if there's one in the back as well. So that would be like something that you can't see in 4D. And the 5D comes up here, though, going into other worlds. So whereas the 4D is dealing with time and knowing the position in time in order to be able to see something, a projection that can't be seen by our view, the 5D is then other worlds to compare what we are and are not. The 6D is then the plane of possible worlds, the comparison of universes with the Big Bang conditions. And if you master the 6D, you can travel back and forth. And again, that always comes up for me as instant manifestation. The 7D is the access to worlds with different conditions. The 7D, the plane of universes with differing conditions. And again, unlimited possibilities or branches, and thus that's why it's the 8D or the infinite. The 9D is comparing all possible universal histories, and then 10D, the final dimension that we can perceive anyway as humans as the point of everything. And then they go into the different brain theories and the theory of everything. And it expands as in how we interact. We start on a small scale and interact to see our differences until we're able to then expand to other worlds. But that doesn't necessarily get bigger. It may get smaller because they deal in consciousness as opposed to mass. And that's why the densities get bigger, because the density is the consciousness. So as we go 1, 2, 3, 4, the consciousness gets more dense, not the mass. So if dimension is the mass direction, and the density is I was getting collapsing in on itself. That was me. So if the dimension is the mass direction, and the density is collapsing in on itself, which was a message I was getting at that moment, because I was getting the energy of folding in on itself. And notice that dimension and density both have E and S in them. That's their similarity. So noticing our similarities and our differences. So dimension and density both have E and S. And E and S is an entity or being, an existing thing, supposedly to condense within itself all of the virtues and I don't know if it was guidelines or genetics or something, of a substance from which it is extracted. So again, supposed to condense within itself all of the virtues and guidelines of a substance from which it is extracted, or in other words, an essence, or the principle. So the plural of En, which is my code for Jesus, is ENS. So multiple Jesuses, multiple Golden Gate holders, multiples of God's gold or those closest to him in his circle. So EN comes up as us, organization, institutions, identical, alike, inside, and even, which then took me back up to 11 again. It also, ENS also means alignment, and ones, as in ONE', within, something that belongs or folds in with upon itself. So the even took me back to 11 because that's the 1-1. And that was getting explained by other energies earlier on. And so as I turn the page, ENS equals even, which is Eve and Jesus. And 11 is L, and then even. And L is L, so it's a 1, point to point. And even is a 1, because even means it's equal to the other. So 11 means L, and the equal of L, or even. The Eve and the Jesus, which is the feminine side of the L masculine side, where L equals or equals 1. The 11 is the 1 equals the other, or the other equals the 1, where EN is Jesus and S is Sophia, and again the parentheses here, which is the Christ of the sea and the Antichrist of the other parenthesis, that both parentheses are pairing the C's, the letter C's of the whispering bench, or the parentheses, the C's of the ocean, the C's with their eyes, and the C's of a suspended animation. So dimension and density with ENS in the middle of both of them. And I'm going to show you this after I read it to you, because you need to see it with your eyes. So I have dimension in one column and density in the other, with ENS being the similarity. But of course there's other differences, and they both have the letter D starting the word. But in between D and ENS in dimension is IM, and at the end is ION, which is connection. And density has ITY at the end, that's it, which is the chakra system of the lowercase I, with the third I, and then the TY of thank you or gratitude. So the dimension is the IM between the two 11, the two ones of the 11, and then connection, whereas the density is the two ones next to each other with the chakra system and gratitude. So the dimension is connecting without, projecting or project out, which then is discovering outside yourself what's out there. And then the density is the chakra system and gratitude, not needing the I am as a human, connecting within, collapsing in on oneself instead of discovering, knowing, source. So one is going out, dimension, to discover what's out there, and one is going in to know by source. So here is the two columns so that you can see what I wrote. Okay? All right, so then Augustine had come up again as well right here. And again, St. Augustine of Hippo came up as well as Augustus in Rome. And the famous writings are City of God and Confessions. And he was actually a Romanized Berber because he was from Africa, St. Augustine. St. Augustine was born 1113, 354, and died 828, 430, which is the day they celebrate him, feast days, 828. Except for the Russians and the Greek Orthodox, or the Greek and the Russian Orthodox celebrate the day on June 15th, which is funny because that's my brother's birthday. He was born in Tagasta, Numidia, or Medio, I can't say it right, but it's Algeria. And Augustine also came up as a 14-point type. So there's the 14 of the temperance and the angelic higher love energy coming up. And then Augustus 63 BCE to 14 CE was referencing the golden age on that page, the oldest and best classical ages of man, of innocent lives of happiness and prosperity. And again, Augustus also represents August. So there's this big August Lion's Gate energy, but all the gates were coming up. So then the gates were coming up. They'd come up earlier than this. Ram's gate is Aries gate. Lion's gate is Lion's gate, 8-8. And then golden gate for me is Saggy gate, so 12-12. Right? Gate to the source, which is then 12-21. So RLG was coming up for Ram's gate, Lion's gate, and golden gate, and it was taking me to the primary colors of red, blue, and yellow, because RBY is ruby. And then they were changing it to Christmas colors of red, green, and gold, which is then GG and RG and G. So it literally comes up as red, gold, and green, which red is Ed, and then green is G of God with Reen, and gold is, I've already told you gold probably a million times, that gold is God and the ancient ones. So the way it comes up is that Reen means R-E-K-I, kind of like Reiki, but without the other I. Reen means Reiki, which means shed, rake, word, command, or order. And the waterway that links a ditch or stream to the river, a running waterway. And it also means rain or to rain. So we have the Ram's gate, which is coming up as the red gate. The Lion's gate, which is coming up as the green gate of the heart, which makes sense because the lion is the heart. At Leo rules the heart. And the Ram's gate's coming as red, so that has to be the root. And it also starts things off, right? And Ram's very red. And then Saggy gate, which is coming up as the golden gate here. And they were coming up as the root, the heart, and the soul. The root's coming up as the body, the heart's coming up as the emotion, and then the soul's coming up as the spiritual. But again, the golden gate can represent the solar plexus here as well, because there's a connection from the solar plexus to the higher chakras. The Tyon comes up here with Mr. Ed and Saggies, because the Saggy gate or Archer's gate, the 12-12 gate, also references bringing the lion and the tiger together. The Tyon is the tiger lioness. And also Mr. Ed denotes Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is the cloak, right? The cloak of protection, the one who sews or weaves, the archer, the one who arches back. The Tyon education, the wise cloak of the weaver who arcs or arches urgently. And education is also extra dimensional, the ED. And again, there's no jonesing or no ahs about it. So they're Joan, and notice Joan and Noah are the same word. It's just the J it folds back on itself. It's arching back to become the H. The O-A-N are the same, and the J becomes the H because it's collapsing in on itself. The arc moved, but it's still the same. So Joan is with the cup up, and Noah has the cup down. The primary colors of red, blue, and yellow, which spell out ruby, and then the R, which equals the R of the divine. So it's literally coming up as the capital D and the lowercase n together, the capital R. So the capital D is the divine or source energy there, and the lowercase n is the Mason with his cup overturned. The R are the divine and Jesus, or Dan, D-A-N, and the capital B is, remember, the D, but the Mason splitting up the feminine in two pieces, not to take her in all at once. The 13 is also the transition, or cutting the divine in two. At the Y, which is the 0 point in the road, the divine reaching out and collapsing in on itself. From R to B in rhythm and blues, the divine with two vine dance at the Y in the road, driving the chariot, the vehicle of 0 point, the connection of the X and Y axis. The X to the Y, like R to B, the rhythm and blues, the source divides, and then the human must dance back to the Y to get home again. The X is the dance and movement of the feminine, but the Y contains the pupil at the heart of it. She with the legs apart and he together, but she as the X shows the shifting of the Y in multiple directions. She has the hole with the W, the two U's, but he has the pupil hole. He, pup, up in arms, or in other words, the child with their arms up in the air, coming together as the three-legged race without X. In God's race or grace, in the three-legged race. So literally, three-legged is 3-1 EGG space ED, which is 3, 2, 1 leap, egg, space, ed. So 3, 2, 1 jump from the egg of the human to ED, which is Mr. Ed or source, with space between, which would be between us. From here to source, there's space between. So the grace of God's race, and grace is gray and sea, the whispering bench and the gray area between, and gratitude of gray and titude, which is source attitude, or gratuity, which is the twin towers of you and I at the Y in the road. So source-tude, or twin towers of you and I at the Y in the road at 0 point, of gray C and gray T, of grace and gratitude, or gratuity, the gray area between the whispering bench and the top dog, between the cul-de-sac and the dead end. So there is your message. Oh, I wanted to show you that too, just so you can see the visual of 3, 2, 1. Egg, space, to ed is literally the three-legged race, which is grace, God's grace. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the read on the table, which is a quick one. That's what 231:14. And the 31, remember, is going from, you get the 4 is in between there, where you got to hit source before you start the new cycle at 1. And the 14 is the angelic realms, the higher love. And let's go back to this read. This one's really quick. All right. So this was done at 7:11 p.m. Well, actually, I cut the deck at 6:56, which is the Lovers and the Two of Swords. And then I finished clarifying at 7:11, which is the Chariot and the two ones of the 11, which we were just talking a lot about. And the major arcana here were the Hanging Man, Justice, and the Starseed. Starseed is the Fool. Before the read is the Higher Self, and after the read was Abundance, which is the Empress. There were 3 swords, 3 cups, 1 pentacle, and 1 cup, so 33 and 11. So there's 11 again with the 33 of the Christ vibration. And the Queen of Swords, the Page of Cups, and the Page of Swords. And before the read is the Knight of Cups. After the read, the Queen of Wands. So let's see what we have here for you. And I did take a picture of this one too. And so here is the read on the table, so you can see it better from above. Okay, so the code line here, well, the numbers first. We had double 10s. That was the only double number. So high vibration to keep it high. 1, 5, and 8 were significant here, as well as the 12 of the Hanging Man, the 45 of the 5 of Cups, the Purging or Grief card, the 56 of the 2 of Swords, the 68 of the Page of Pentacles, the 89 of the Phi energy of expanding, contracting, or staying in the middle, reflecting, and then 9, 10, begin again. Every time you expand out, come back to the center again, back to your heart and the present moment. And also 24 came up, which is the Queen of Wands, and that's also Omega and Pleiades. So the code line is all about pride and change, and the number that came up on the code line was 10101. Crazy. 10101. As far as the numbers coming up, we had 1 and 1010, which is 10101. So the messages here were to the nth degree, 1 equal and congruent to AI and AD, IV, or divine hanging man, high vibe passion for pride and change. The lady in wait, with wonder and divergence, in 2 giants and divinity, the hanging man hanging out with their 2-wheeler, or big wheels keep on rolling, And again, Tina Turner came up many times with the two wheels and big wheels keep on rolling. And new inspiration to take pride in changing. To the nth degree, the 8 of infinity, a divergence of the hanging man, of 1010, and high vibe destiny of two wheels. And again, the Hydra as two pinwheels. And the snake of the Kundalini. And again, that energy of the shutter and the third eye, right? And the flame of pride and change. To the nth degree, Eve and Adam, and AI in between. The divine hanging man and double destined passion. So we start this one out with the Queen of Swords on top here, with the mini cards on top. And underneath the Queen of Swords reversed, it's the 3 of Pentacles reversed, the Higher Self upright, the 8 of Wands reversed, the Knight of Cups reversed, and the Ace of Pentacles reversed. The Knight of Wands reversed with issues at work with their higher self, in a heated exchange with the Knight of Cups reversed, or jealous rejection and withholding from the Queen of Swords reversed. Present starting over and leaving the Empress reversed, committed to moving or travel, with the Empress reversed committed to this energy of moving or traveling, or the Queen of Swords reversed leaving so that the Empress can marry the warrior, or Taurus reversed and Cancer upright, with the Sovereign who's released here, and free from patient or a higher love, free with loyal friend, perhaps Aries or Saggy, and the Queen of Swords reversed patient, with the Abundance card here, number 88, the two twins dancing side by side within their masculine and feminine, and then again that third 8 which knocks them over into the infinity symbol together, and that's when they're connected. The 88 of Abundance, which is also the Empress energy in the SIRIAN Starseed deck. And then beneath that was Spiritual Partnership of 27, which came up in the beginning of the video. The 2 and the 7 of the Ace of Wands and February 7th. In the recent past is the 8 of Cups upright and walking away with everything in place, receiving a big love offer or plead for help from the Emperor reversed, with the King of Swords reversed and the Queen of Wands reversed, and the Page of Wands upright, who's inspired by the Page of Cups reversed, and neither the Empress or the Emperor, both reversed, are in a good position. The foundation is Justice, and or the Queen of Swords reversed, Libra, and the Page of Pentacles is upright with Capricorn in their chart, or detoxing student, staying calm and being strong, or pacifying the beast, with Pisces upright and Taurus both upright and reversed, Cancer upright and Aries reversed, Capricorn reversed and Leo upright, and the central energy of the Page of Cups reversed, who's vulnerable and shy or feeling rejected, or spoiled and entitled, or the Queen of Swords reversed is walking away rejected, or the Queen of Swords and the Empress both reversed perhaps may have lost a child, or the baby is just crying nonstop. With Knight of Swords reversed and the Knight of Cups reversed, there may be other kids involved here as well. And I'm so sorry if someone has lost a child. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Or needing someone to babysit here. With the Knight of Swords reversed, with the 10 of Cups reversed, and unhappy and keeping to themselves, dissatisfied with the Queen of Cups, High Priestess, on a quest to pursue their happiness. The challenge being the Hanging Man, or Capricorn or Pisces, in need of a new perspective or inspiration. Perhaps a choice from justice or the courts, or Libra moving to peace or freedom from having to be wise all the time. And now is the Page of Swords upright in an announcement coming out to partner or about connection, with Aquarius upright and Virgo reversed and the Queen of Pentacles reversed. With an unstable home, facing their worst fears of issues at work after a sudden event, or perhaps in the southeast of constant drama and frustration, and bombarded King of Pentacles, who's upright here. But soon at 8:39, which is the dance of the Knight of Cups, the 10 of Pentacles reversed, family, business, or community of dysfunction or loss may be burdened by urgency or lovers exposed or hanging out on vacation or with kids, but with a lot of weight of dysfunction or loss of the family here. Withholding or playing ball or playing hardball with the Ten of Pentacles reversed in a split or emergency or need for clarity here. With the twin flames, the Five of Swords is upright from frog stretching to prince. Depressed Page of Cups reversed, seeing things, or baby needs to eat or be given options or toys to distract them. This may be someone who's insecure at work. Maybe they had to bring their child with them to work, or a need for tools at work, or is out of them, or trying to be charitable and get others to help, but feeling or failing to get their attention. So getting a bit aggressive to get them to listen. And around the twins, or how they're seen here, is the Starseed upright with a big download to the crown, or a hit to the head. The crown, or the lights back on, with the King of Wands reversed, standing up to get people to drop the act and break their patterns, or a circuit breaker to end pain or painful end, to get their energy back on around the world, the neighborhood, or the establishment. With the Queen of Swords reversed, grieving or in desperate need, or lashing out at those who dropped the ball, or fixing an overwhelming situation, one issue at a time. The block here is the Ten of Cups reversed, the lack of fulfillment or unhappy family, and the Page of Swords stepping up for the Knight of Wands reversed to recover, with pride and change, but even more so compassion here, with 99. The Ace of Wands reversed is frustration in the heat of the moment and wanting to cry, and the King of Pentacles surrendered to the full moon, unable to come together and offer help to the King of Cups and the Knight of Cups, both reversed. And a downturn of the Six of Cups, or in a falling out, or bad memories of the nest or the past, or an illness or 5D connection, or in meditation or heartbreak, or heart surgery needing patient care, or suffering in silence, or just can't sleep, or on call all night, and the Empress is reversed with the Queen of Wands reversed, with the Divine Masculine's heart in the Batcave, finding peace in a Two of Cups connection. Death be not proud, as Dark Night returns, Grim Reaper, and last rites, of mother and daughter holding on and finding peace, of making peace with each other. And the Queen of Swords reversed with justice of stretching and growing, with a fresh start and walking away and within, allowing self to be vulnerable, and challenged by wisdom of the Ten of Pentacles reversed, dysfunction and loss, and the Ten of Cups reversed, emotional dysfunction, the Page of Swords message, and a need to inspire, hiding underground, the Empress and the Queen of Wands both reversed, moving to peaceful waters with the Two of Cups dark night, or in a transition. Where the Queen of Swords reversed is leaving, and the Justice of the Page of Cups reversed, rejection, challenged by wisdom, and the Page of Swords growing up, about family dysfunction and a new understanding of emotional dysfunction and frustration, and lack of arousal and passion, hiding in lack or anger in the Batcave for peace in connection with partner and transformation at 923, which is the Hermit and the King of Wands. And that's it for this message today. So I'm just going to pull you I'm going to pull you one of my animal cards, since it was more Disney coming to my window this morning. At 8:51, which is the Dance of the King of Swords. And it's 2:43:11 on this clock, which is the two of the feminine and the coming together in the 11 of evenness and equality. Oh, two cards just came flying out. We have the Two of Winter, the two Dachshunds. Procrastination and worrying what others will think is blocking you from making a decision. If you're torn between your own desires and someone else's, follow your inner guidance. And this came out with it also, but upside down, there's the cat. The Eight of Winter. So we've got two winters, 2 and 8. 28 is the twin flames. And then here is bunting. Let me clear that up a little bit for you. It's having trouble focusing. I don't know why. Okay, so anyway, the Eight of Winter says bunting. It's so easy to convince yourself that you're trapped when you really aren't. Trust that God will lift you to new heights and give you greater self-confidence. if you affirm your freedom. And the bottom of the deck here is the King of Summer. And we have the penguins there with their family. And there could be 2 separate families here, perhaps 1 parent, or just 4 children. Warm-hearted, devoted, loving, and faithful, the King of Summer. A trustworthy person or relationship enters your life. You may receive wise and compassionate advice from someone who speaks directly from the heart. And that's coming up as the King. King of Autumn, I think that's Pentacles. I'm not sure in this deck. But again, the Winter is definitely Swords energy here. So 2 swords of being in your knowing and not allowing, worry, which is fear, to cause blocks. And follow your inner guidance. And the 2 of Swords, being in your knowing. And then the 8 of Winter brings in more energies because there's 2 here, right? So this is a masculine energy with multiple little ones around. And there was a Saint Bernard behind him in the snow, bringing a barrel over here to someone climbing uphill. And then here is the energy of 2 dachshunds coming together. And then there's 3 birds over here talking and another one being released from prison. So again, both of these cards have to do with, worry. So it's so easy to convince yourself that you're trapped when you're not. Trust that God will lift you to new heights and give you the greater self-confidence if you affirm your freedom. So again, release yourself from your own chains. And then you'll see that your partner's right there. Okay, you guys. I hope you liked that. I had fun time getting those messages for sure. So remember your water, your sleep, your joy, your nature. Follow your own intuition, first and last. Rise and be loved, love and rise. Take a deep breath. Remember, it's in the shudder of the eye. Rise and be loved, you guys. I'll see you soon. Have an amazing day. And breathe.